Hello everybody.
Next up we nip up to the Midlands, where we'll be hosted by Aston Villa. Kick-off on Sundays at 4:30pm, with Sky being the broadcaster of choice. And you may want to leave yourself good time to get up there. There's engineering works at Aston, and that will limit your options on Sunday, so as ever, check before you leave. So Villa then. It's not been a bad start to the season for them, though they might have been wondering after their opening day 5-1 reversal at Newcastle. However, bolstered by a friendly fixture list, which included matches against Everton, Burnley, Palace, Chelsea and Brighton, they won 5 of their next 6, the one reversal coming at Anfield. The 6-1 win over Brighton wiped out the deficit from the Newcastle game. Their last outing before the break saw them take a point at Molineux in a 1-1 draw, which leaves them in 5th place with 16 points from 8 matches. That's 2 points and 2 places above us at the time of writing. In the Cups, they went out to Everton in the 3rd round of the League Cup, and then there's the Thursday night conference to consider. They were effectively given a bye to the group stage by virtue of drawing Hibernian in the playoff round, prevailing 8-0 on aggregate. At this point, pretty much every Villa fan you might have encountered were convinced that the trophy was as good as theirs, the sarcastic logic being, how hard can it be if West Ham won it? Well, they found out pretty quickly, going down 3-2 to Legia Warsaw in their first group match. They got slightly back on track with a 1-0 win over Bosnians Javinski Mostar, but after 2 games they sit bottom of the group, in which all 4 teams have 3 points from 2 games. Things aren't about to get any easier for them, with their next match being a visit to face AZ in Alkmaar. It does take a certain level of club to go 17 unbeaten in Europe, you know. According to Daisy, Unai, or Dick as he's known around here, Emery, didn't go too mad during the transfer window, bringing in 3 players on permanent deals with another couple arriving on loan. Yuri Tielemans was the first arrival, having activated the escape pod from Leicester, his contract expiry neatly coinciding with the Filberts' relegation, meaning Villa picked him up on a free. However, the rumour mill suggests that the Belgian international is none too happy with this season so far. His 8 league appearances have all come from the bench, and the gossip is that he's looking for a new club come January. If that comes to fruition, Villa will make a decent profit on the deal. Pau, which is pronounced Noel, probably Torres, was the next arrival. A £31 million signing from Villarreal, he plies his trade in central defence and came in after Tyrone Mings' opening day season-ending knee injury. He popped up with the equaliser in the match at Wolves the other week. Winger Moussa Diaby cost them £51 million to bring in from Bayer Leverkusen, for whom he scored 31 goals in 125 appearances. He rejected a move to the Saudi League during the window, presumably on the grounds that at 24 he was far too young to sell his soul for a few zillion petrol dollars. He came up through the ranks at PSG and has been capped at pretty much every level by the French, and it was he who was on target during their opening day 5-1 defeat on Tyneside. Loan signing Nicolo Zaniolo seems to have a problem in settling down anywhere. Although he was on Roma's books for 5 years, much of that time was spent injured, and perhaps understandably he wasn't getting picked much. Towards the end of his spell in the Eternal City, there was a difference of opinion. He wanted a hefty new contract at the club, whilst the club wanted him to go away for a large fee, preferably. Eventually Galatasaray rescued him during the last winter window, and although he picked up a Turkish Champions medal, it was clear that all was still not well with the player, culminating in his loan move from Istanbul to Birmingham, with Villa shelling out over £4 million for the privilege. It seems that he's been implicated in a gambling scandal, with both he and Newcastle's Tonali withdrawing from the Italian squad to play England the other night. The final loan arrival was Clement Lenglet. Now, Lenglet is a Barcelona player who spent last season on loan at Spurs, poor thing. He's survived that tragedy and has come out on loan to Villa. He's made just the 2 league starts in the Villa defence since his arrival from Catalonia. Let's move on, shall we, to the wild and wacky world of association football. And congratulations to Scotland, who, presumably through some form of administrative error, have qualified to finish bottom of their group in Euro 2024. There was also some hilarious co-commentary from the England defeat of Italy in midweek, as Dion Dublin went into effusive toadying overdrive over Harry Kane scoring a penalty, praising the player's ability to get into goal-scoring positions. Yes, for a penalty. Much was made of the booing of Jordan Henderson in the midweek friendly win over Australia, with the player claiming that nothing would stop him giving his best for his country, seemingly oblivious to the fact that that's precisely what we're all afraid of. Henderson claims that his values haven't changed over his move to Saudi Arabia, which rather somewhat calls his campaigning for LBGT etc. rights in the past into question. Meanwhile, he rather pompously suggested that having someone like him in Saudi was a good thing, as if his presence there would bring about a paradigm shift in the country's attitude to human rights. I look eagerly forward to his public protest on the streets of Riyadh then. And so to us. Well, PGMOL can think themselves lucky that Peter Banks was refereeing West Ham versus Newcastle, rather than anything involving Liverpool. Can you imagine the media's response had their darlings been on the receiving end of a performance like that? Guimaraes should have been, sent off, as should Almiron, whose waved yellow card mysteriously escaped punishment, unlike that of Emerson. The free kick that led to their first goal wasn't, and the shove just before their second was visible from the International Space Station, but strangely didn't get reviewed by VAR, so it was very pleasing to get a point against all the bent odds. The match did get me thinking. No, bear with me. It's a matter of record that some English referees have been approached by the Saudis with a view to them making the move to the Middle East to take charge of matches in front of the 950 spectators who attend them, obviously in return for a lot of money for doing so. I do wonder if PGMOL have taken any steps to ensure that any referees so approached don't take charge of matches in which Newcastle are the participants. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute Banks was enthralled to the Saudis, but wouldn't it be better to ensure that he wasn't potentially put in that position in the first place? After all, if he had been trying to curry favour with them the other week, he couldn't have done a better job of it. On the injury front, we do seem to have come through the international break rather unscathed. We have one thing to be grateful for Henderson for. His refusal to play the ball out wide to the right, preferring to bring his central defenders and goalkeeper into play on every occasion, ensured that Bowen had a nice quiet night on the right-hand side there without picking up a knock. We do have 3 doubts, but the injuries to Cresswell, Fabianski and Johnson are likely only to affect the composition of the racing car seats rather than the first 11. Which brings us nicely on to the prediction. This is another one, a bit like the Newcastle game, when you can't really imagine either side having an obvious edge over the other for this one. Both sides will fancy their chances, and both sides will be aware that they are also capable of having off days. Now, I know this is going to be a common prediction around here, but I reckon another draw is on the cards. So the £2.50 that I was going to put towards the airfare to Riyadh for all our referees will instead be placed at Winston's Turf Accountants on another 2-all draw. Enjoy the game.